Hi, it's Debbie Williams here. I'm an NLP trainer and hypnotherapist from Birmingham, UK. And today I'm going to talk about what I would do to cure Frank Bruno, the boxer, of his bipolar. Now, let me just explain very, very quickly what I would do. 1, I would teach him strategies on how to be happy. 2, I would teach him strategies on how to overcome negative thinking and worries and all his fears. And basically, that's what I do. Now, to go a little bit more in depth of the specifics, when I was watching a TV programme on the BBC a couple of weeks ago, there was an interview there with Frank talking about his bipolar. And I was watching it and thinking, oh, if he came to me as a client, I do this, this and this. And I also understand how he's got into that position of having bipolar by looking at the psychology of what's happened to him. And also what was of interest to me is just chatting to a few friends. A friend of mine, Jason Pegler, he was meeting a boxer the next day who is a friend of Frank Bruno. And then the day after that, I came to my friend who was over from Marbella, and my other friend had come over from America, and I was at their place, and Angie's partner Dave said, oh yeah, my friend from Leeds, he was one of Frank's best friends, blah blah blah, in the early days. And I thought, is there a message here? So I want to put this out, so not just to help Frank if he ever watched this, but to help anybody else with bipolar of what you can do for yourself, and you can do it quite inexpensively. There's going to be a few links added to the bottom of this video. One is my free recording, Stop Worrying, Create a Wonderful Life. Now, that isn't going to completely cure you of bipolar because obviously it's quite a complex issue. But this is how I'd work with somebody like Frank or anybody else that comes to me. First of all, I'd be setting an intention, a goal to study happiness. Because as Paul McKenna says, the trouble with happiness is people don't practice it enough. Please excuse the light going on and off. I'm waiting for an electrician to come and replace this. And so by setting that goal on how to be happy and keeping a happiness journal or success journal, then recording what's going well, also what's gone well in the past, things to look forward to. It's saying to the mind, this is worth recording. This is worth putting down in a journal to say to the mind, I like this, give me more of this. And of course, in Frank's life, he's had lots of things to celebrate and to be proud of. And the second thing I would be doing is looking at the negative thoughts. And I get my clients to write down what their negative thoughts are on post-it notes and to put them in an envelope with a question on it which says, what must I learn to move on? And that's also starting to instruct our brain to look for solutions. See, we have a brain, but nobody has an owner's manual, and it's not user-friendly. And by separating out the two so that we've got the good and we're recording it, and the not so good we're putting on post-it notes, we're saying to the brain, I wouldn't mind losing this because it's fed up of it anyway. There will be a link here as well to some of my videos of overcoming negative thoughts, which you can watch, and they teach you how to change your thinking. Because our brain, how we create our reality is pictures we have in our mind's eye, whether we're aware of it or not. How we talk to ourselves, whether we're aware of that or not, that generates then the feelings. And so if we change our pictures and we change our thoughts, we can change our feelings. Because it said we have 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day, and many of them are the same old, same old. So there'll be a link below that you can follow, and there has some exercises on there of how to break this pattern of negative thoughts. And so this is what I'd be doing with Frank. But the other interesting thing I noticed with Frank is how he sorts for information. In NLP, we talk about meta programs, and they're like a line of from A to B. So if I give you an example, some people sort from the detail, and they're the kind of people that you say, how are you? And before you know it, 3 hours later, they've told you every single detail about their problem and what the doctor said and what the nurse said and what the doctor said on the second visit. Oh, and I must tell you what he said on the first visit because I forgot that. So you must get that information. And so they have to tell you every single detail. And you're like, ugh. Whereas the opposite to that, if so, how are you doing? Yeah, I'm absolutely fine. That's sort of a big picture as opposed to the detail. So that's one meta program, and there's hundreds upon hundreds of meta programs. What I picked up from Frank Bruno is he's somebody who sorts by others rather than sorts by self. And if we look at that as a line, people who sort by self are people along the lines of, say, Margaret Thatcher, especially at the end of her reign of sort of running the country. She went off the rails a little bit, and when asked about sort of her policies and pointed out by the reporter, well, all these MPs think that this isn't right and this isn't right, what would you say to them? And she said with absolute congruency, they're all wrong. And she believed it. So she's sorting by self. And we all know these kind of people that you can have an argument with them, but you could never sort of get them to change their point of view because they know for certain they're absolutely right. And there's no arguing with them. My mother was one of those. Now, this isn't totally bad. You need to have that when Margaret Thatcher was sort of in the earlier days, you have to have somebody who's going to step up and lead. And if there's other meta programs running to keep that in check, that it's not going sort of off the scale, then it's a very, very useful trait to have. Now, the total opposite end of that is sorting by others. Now, the worst case of that can be somebody who's a bit of a mouse, who's scared to do anything, who, oh, well, what do you think? Oh, what do you think? Well, I don't know. What do you think? Please tell me what to do, because I don't know what to do. And they're racked by indecision and they're unable to make any choices. Now, we'd hardly describe Frank Bruno as being like that because he has other meta programs running, but there is elements of this. And how I picked this up watching his interview was when he won his one sort of world title, and then it was challenged and he went to fight with Mike Tyson and he lost it. The main thing he was worrying about is that he'd let other people down. He'd let his fans down, and he'd let sort of, well, it caused him more pain to know that he'd let his fans down than it actually did himself, although that was pretty painful as well. And also, they were speaking on the TV, there was a chap saying that when he was walking up to that match, you can tell the state of somebody as they walk up, whether they're going to win or not. And by the time he got up there, this guy said, it was like a lamb to slaughter because he'd blessed himself or crossed himself 13 times. And within NLP, we talk about our state of mind and how we can change this. We can teach a confidence strategy quite easily. When I work with sports people, I often get them to step into their hero's shoes. And so I say, well, stand the way they'd stand. Imagine looking at their eyes the way they look at their eyes, how they talk to themselves, how they feel. And if they were running your brain the next time you play that round of golf or the next time you play that game, just run through this mental scenario in mind of letting them teach your neurology their skill set. And this is a fantastic way to up your game. And I've done this with hundreds of sports people over the years to help them take their sport to the next level. And so Frank didn't have that support, didn't have that knowledge, and he was walking up there, and that he'd be saying inside his mind, oh my God, am I going to fail this? No, stop thinking that. Please God help me, please God help me, please God help me. And already he's gone into a bit of like a victim mode. See, to do a victim mode very well, or to do depression very well, we have to have a physiology down, we have to have some black cloud there, because if we have a bright future, that would mess up depression. We have to talk to ourselves, oh, nothing works, nothing goes well, and maintain that state. So his state of mind going up there was not a good one, because nobody taught him strategies how to do that. Nobody really knew that to any great detail, as NLP was just starting sort of in the 70s, and it took them some time to get out there. And the other thing I picked up from him was they were saying that his manager died and somebody else left the country. I can't remember the exact details. So when he was training, even though he sorted by others, he also had a meta program going of success. He could see the success he wanted, but he was advised by good people on what he needs to do. And so his coach was saying, right, Frank, you need to do this, this, and this. Okay, right, I'll do this, this, and this. That will help me win. So he had this outcome of winning. And all of a sudden, his coaches, his two strong supporters had left, and that, coupled with sort of losing and letting the public down, that's enough to make anybody depressed. That's enough to make anybody go off the rails and go down and down and down. And if you're in that state of mind and nobody can pull you back, then you're not likely to be a good person to be around. So he may well have caused arguments with his wife or with his behaviour. Then the marriage broke down, which is going to cause even more problems, culminating in the fact that then he sort of got sectioned and driven away, when really what he needed was to understand, as everybody does, that we have a brain but nobody has an owner's manual. It's not user friendly, and we need to have strategies on to teach us how to develop happiness for ourselves and how to have skill sets to overcome our negative thoughts, to process them. And the only strategy that Frank had was, when he was walking up to that match, was, God please help me, God please help me, God please help me. And having a faith is excellent, and I work with this with clients, or I sometimes say our creator, because if people are not religious, then that's a way of tapping into a higher source of whatever creator does, because we just don't know. And so having that element of helping you added into with a specific how-to strategy can help you to move forward. See, when I've worked with clients before now, practicing happiness doesn't happen overnight. I'm usually looking at between 3 months to a year to really ingrain that. And luckily, if you're watching this and you have issues like that, if you click the link below and you get my free Stop Worrying recording, you'll also get access to my free monthly coaching email, which has specific questions focusing on solutions of looking, what's gone well last month, what's gone to plan, what hasn't gone to plan, what do you want to achieve this next month. So you capture your goals. Well, I want to feel happier. Now, quite a few psychologists sort of say, well, happiness is too big a goal because it's not really specific. But I disagree with that, because I've been through it myself, because I wasn't happy and I decided I wanted to be happy. I set that goal, and it's such a big goal that heading in that direction, what happens is then the brain starts to sort and remember things that made you happy in the past. It gives you suggestions of things it thinks will make you happy now, and then the details start to fall into place to help you to discover what makes you happy. And it's not a state of nirvana, it's a state of being more in tune and more in flow. Okay, it's great talking to you today, and please click the link, get your free Stop Worrying, and have a look at the other links of there's help that's there to help you overcome any kind of mental illness. Obviously, you need to talk to your doctor as well and get that support, because I don't know your individual case. But by getting your mindset right, by teaching yourself strategies of how to be happy, of having strategies on how to overcome those fears, those negative thoughts, then you're going to go a long way to being much more at peace in your own skin. Great talking to you today. Bye now.